Wow.
Isn't that weird? She magically appeared one day.
Are we being served or something?
Good evening. This is the meeting of the Bolton Board of Selectmen on Thursday, September 25th. The first item on our agenda is a public hearing to act on the application of Wachusett Realty LLC for site plan review to construct a new bank building at 562 Main Street. This, just for folks' background, the new commercial project in Bolton requires both a special permit from the Planning Board and site plan review from the Board of Selectmen. And I think last night the Planning Board held a session that they continued, and we are meeting tonight for site plan review. Do you want to introduce your team, Mr. Philbin?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. David Philbin for the bank. With us are Rick Hayward, the treasurer of the bank, Michael Togley, the vice president in charge of operations and branches, and the one and only Rob Olivier from Ross Associates, who is the engineer and can probably handle this without us, and then will be available for questions or comments afterwards.
All right, great. Last night, Stan and I we were both at the planning board meeting, so we saw the presentation, but I think for the benefit of everyone else, and certainly for Mark's benefit, why don't you give an overview, sort of focusing on the site plan aspects.
I guess at first I'd ask, where should I set up my plans for everyone to be able to see?
Well,
Behind Mr. Lowe.
yeah, no, Don. Maybe Don scooted back. It could work.
Did the bylaw change?
Well, good evening. Again, my name is Robert Oliver. I'm an engineer with David Ross Associates. Here tonight on behalf of Clinton Savings Bank. The project is located at 562 Main Street. The bank is purchasing the property from the current owner, Mr. Bracy. The proposal is to build a new bank branch office to replace their current office at 563 Main Street, across the street from this site. So to give you bearings on the site, we're a 0.85 acre parcel on Main Street. To the west is the town fields, the lacrosse fields. To the east is the veterinary's office, the vet's office. The existing home is here. There's an existing garage, gravel driveway around the existing house, mostly lawn, and then some wooded area in the back. Behind the site on the town property, there's a perennial stream with bordering wetland. So this plan is an existing conditions plan. It shows both the buffer zone and the 200-foot riverfront area. So that's a little about the site. There's some existing trees shown here. Some will come out as part of the project. Existing septic, everything on site will be replaced under the new construction. So that's just the existing site in a nutshell. This is the landscaping plan for the proposed project. This gives you a good overview of what we're doing. So I'll walk you through a little bit what's happening with the site. So here's our proposed building with an overhead canopy for ATM and remote teller services. Can you see that? This lighter color, here's our entrance drive, which loops through the site and back out through an exit drive back out to Main Street. We have parking in front of the entryway, which is here. So we have parking spaces with a handicapped accessible parking space in this location. We have additional parking in this location and a few parallel spaces, mostly for workers at the rear of the site. So as the traffic pattern works for the site, a vehicle would enter. They have the option to park, use the drive-through teller lanes or the ATM. So there's 3 lanes with room to bypass for vehicles that wish to park or go through the site. The building itself includes new sidewalk on the site to promote pedestrian access from the rear parking to the building. There's also a bike rack for Larry built into the facility. That's part of the town's requirements, and that's all been reviewed by the design review board. So this drawing again shows the landscaping. It shows the site layout, so you can get a feel for that. We're including new landscaping in and around the site, both with trees, bushes, perennial plantings, new lawns, mulch islands. So it's a fairly detailed landscape plan.
Rob, can you address the existing trees?
Yep, the existing trees, where we have 2 street trees in front of the facility. Obviously, we're not touching. Those are out in the right of way. There's an existing tree which basically straddles the property line between our site and the vet's office. In this location, another existing tree here. There's some existing trees through here that will come down. There are also some that will be saved. If can be, some may require a small tree well, but if not, the area will be landscaped. Another big existing tree out in the back. This is a tree that will actually come down as part of the septic system construction. And everywhere else, we have some low landscaping around the building and the entrance and exits. We have some low landscaping around an existing well and a proposed propane tank, which of course has a cover to grade that we want to hide. So that's
Stone wall?
stone wall again, thank Dave. To help pick up with the grading on the site, and I'll get into the grading a little bit later when we talk about utilities on the site. We have a boulder wall on this edge of the parking. Design review board again has looked at that. It provides a more natural feel compared to a block or concrete wall. So we're using that here to buffer the grades on site. On this part of the site, we're proposing just a decorative fence to kind of give a buffer between the town land and the site. As it is now, they're pretty much wide open to each other with the exception of some of the trees through here. This is our site layout plan, basically providing all the detail for parking widths, aisle widths. I won't go into too much detail, but we have 5 parking spaces, 6 parking spaces, and then the 3 parallel parking spaces. The 14 spaces that we're providing is actually in excess of what the town bylaw requires based on the building size. So on the site layout plan, we're providing both signage for traffic flow, pavement markings with directional arrows, line striping, lane striping, no parking zone for fire lane. That's all shown on the site layout plan. So we're providing a lot of information for people coming into the site to know where to go and how to maneuver through the site. The utilities on site, we are providing a new septic system. The new septic system is out in the rear of the site. The site contains a lot of sand and gravel, so it's not an overly large septic system. In fact, it's smaller than your typical 3-bedroom house, just based on the size of the building, the flows that's required. As I mentioned earlier, there's an existing well out at the front of the site that will be maintained and serve the building. We're actually going to raise the casing of the well to bring it back out into code as the Board of Health is requiring. The electrical service on site will either come from an existing pole, which we may have to work with the town with later. The pole is on the town property, and I believe it services the cell phone site out in the rear. If that's not possible for whatever reason, we may have to put a new pole in front of the site near the property line to run our underground service to the building. The drainage, the stormwater runoff on site is being handled all on site. The existing pattern of runoff is there's an area in the back which flows towards the back and an area out the front which basically heads towards either the street or the vet's office. There's a little bit of a raised high point through the middle of the site. Although it's flat, there's some relief in the contours. The The proposal to handle stormwater runoff is through the use of underground infiltration. They're black arched plastic chambers laid out in a bed with crushed stone. And we're able to do that given the nature of the soils on site. They're highly infiltrative soils. So we have catch basins to collect, water quality inlets to treat prior to discharge to these two underground systems. Currently, we're showing those two systems here and here. We are looking at pushing them further back into the site to maintain a required setback from the well. So that is a change we're going to be making to this plan. The system itself, in talking about the grades, and this is a question that came up last night, is we actually are bringing in fill to raise the site, raise the building, raise the parking area. And normally you look at that site, you see it as a nice flat site, you think, great, easy to build on. In meeting the Mass DEP stormwater standards, we're required to meet a 2-foot groundwater offset to the bottom of our drainage infiltration structures here and here. That is basically the guiding element in designing the site, in that to get those there, we have to raise the site up a little bit. High groundwater elevations were established through our soil testing on the site. We tested out in the front, we tested across, and we of course tested where the septic system is going. So that creates the need to raise the grades somewhat. And again, that's the reason why we're providing that boulder wall on this side of the site. But essentially all the runoff created by the development, both the building and the parking lot, will stay on site and be recharged. So the system itself meets the Mass Stormwater standards in the Stormwater Handbook, all on site. In fact, we actually reduced the flows off site because we're putting so much back in the ground. That's the utilities. We talked about the septic system, the drainage, electrical. I mentioned there's an underground propane tank proposed to serve the building. That'll be underground. It's less than 2,000 gallon tank, so on the small side. I guess that's essentially all I need to tell you about the site utilities. I can show you the building plans. So we also submitted, as part of the application, a set of architectural drawings. This is the floor plan for the building. As you can see, as you come in this direction, the main door, main entrance to the bank is here. There's a covered entry and the bike rack is covered. The canopy and teller and ATM equipment is in the back here. So here's that driveway and then looping back around.
Is the ATM just a drive-up ATM?
Yes. Yep. What it is there's a drive-up ATM on the building, and right here, a depository, night depository there, and then 2 remote teller stations. So you can come through and make your transactions with a teller there. So then we get into the elevation. So this is just the attic plan. So here we have elevations for the building. So this is looking at the front of the building from Main Street. You can see it's residential in style. This would be the right side west elevation, looking from the lacrosse fields in parking at the main entrance. So you see the main entrance here under this covered canopy, the side of the building, the canopy with the teller and ATM equipment here. And then we get into the other elevations. So this is the east, looking from the east from the vet's office. There's an egress door here. There's a screen fence for some HVAC equipment for the condensers there. Again, looking at the drive-through and the canopy there. And then we have the rear elevation looking from the back of the site. So you can see basically you're looking under the canopy to the ATM machine in the background. The main door would be under the canopy here. And then again, some more elevations to provide some more detail at the front of the building. The west elevation, looking from the fields again, and then looking from the vet's office. You can see in this some landscaping, which is basically arborvitae screening for lighting, to keep lighting on site off of the abutting property. And then a lighting plan, essentially just showing the lighting levels on the site. So that was all provided as part of the application. I tried to be as brief as possible. I know we talked a lot last night at the planning board. Not everybody was there for that to hear the discussion, but I can at this point certainly open it up to the board for any questions.
We have, as part of under the bylaws, the selectmen get a report from the planning board for site plan review, and we do have a letter dated September 19th from Jonathan Keith. And the first item he mentions is, he says the planning board requests the traffic and impact, the planning board requests the traffic impact and access study be reviewed by the town's consulting engineer at the applicant's expense to determine the project's impact on the town and provide recommendations for mitigation measures to alleviate existing and prospective traffic level increases. We learned last night there was a very detailed traffic study done, but essentially the business is only being moved from one side of the street to the other.
Correct.
I guess while our bylaws would potentially provide sort of peer review, I don't know, it strikes me that in this case it's particularly necessary.
Well, I would agree, and people who weren't at the planning board meeting yesterday, I talked at length on this subject as well. So I think the traffic study that was done, shows really basics telling you what's already there. And I'm perfectly satisfied that moving the building from one side of the street to the other, it's literally across the street, is really not going to have any impact whatsoever, given the amount of traffic that they expect. I also commented that the space that they're currently in now, the bank is currently in now, the office building that they have is relatively small. So there was some argument about new businesses moving in and creating traffic jams, but quite frankly that space is relatively small, very modest, so any business that would move in there would have very few employees, and even if it were another bank, as one planning board member had indicated, I doubt the amount of additional traffic compared to what is normally on the road throughout the day would really have any dramatic, if any, impact whatsoever. So I think, I don't think it's really necessary to have a peer review of the traffic study.
And we heard last night, the hours 8 to 4, is that the approximate hours? So the evening rush hour is less an issue. There might be some folks in the end of the morning rush hour. But
for the benefit of the hearing, I think it's something like 20 to 22,000 cars per day travel that road.
Right.
And over a normal course of a day, we have maybe 100. So comparing 100 to 20,000, it's really a drop in the bucket. Even if another bank were to go into that other space, it's really minimal impact.
Right. I think the traffic consultants not transactions, and some people do more than one transaction. I think he was even lowering his estimate to about 60 vehicles, or somewhere between 60 and 100, over that course of the day period.
I think that makes. I mean, like less people. You won't have that many people turning across traffic there. So
yeah.
The next item that the planning board letter raises, they say, in review of the package, the planning board noted a total of 4 Clinton Savings Bank signs to be installed. The planning board questions whether this number of signs is necessary for branding of the bank. They request that signage be reduced to 2 signs incorporating the sign located near the side door entrance and the sign over the ATM machine only. Though I think they also mean they're still leaving the main sign on the road. And we've got sort of packages on that, and I guess I know design review folks had already weighed in on signage.
Yeah, what we have on site, we have a single yard sign in front of the building on the site, and then in looking at the elevations of the building, what's proposed On the west elevation, the main part of the building near the entrance, there's a sign on the wall and another wall sign, both lighted from above, lettering pinned to the wall, type of signs.
And one on before the front door.
And then there's, I'm sorry, yep, there's one here,
That one's not lit though.
and that's, yep, there's no lighting on that. So those are the 4 total signs.
Right. And I think last night it was indicated that the color scheme is sort of a multiple sort of beige taupe.
And those were worked out with the design review.
Right,
committee.
and the actual signs themselves are sort of a darker forest green. So, I mean, I don't think it's overly done, so I'm fine with the 4 signs as it is now. I don't have a problem with that. Considering that the one in the front's not lit, you know, they're gonna have their, you know, street sign, and I think these 2 are, you know, not very intrusive anyway, so.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think,
I think the lower one, I think will be obscured by the screening
Yeah.
from off the property, so I don't.
So I'm fine with the sign, the package that was, you know, provided to us earlier today.
yeah, no, I think it's pretty tasteful, and in fact, you know, I mean, the whole package, when it's done, is going to be much nicer than what's there now. I mean, it's going to be a huge improvement, and so I don't think this signage is overbearing. I don't have a problem with that. And we have, Lynn, do we have sort of a separate sign request here as part of this application, or is that something
No,
we'll
we
do
don't.
down the road? Okay.
I mean, that,
Because we do have, as part of the site review process, we can look at signage, but then we sort of have a separate sign bylaw before you get a, you know, building permit for your standing sign. But,
yeah, this is what came in with the
Yeah.
submittal.
Right.
okay.
Right, and that's for your benefit to
Yep.
to see what we're proposing. Of course, any of the signage, especially the yard sign, will conform to zoning.
Yep. The next comment from the planning board was about bicycle parking. It sounds like you've already you've addressed that. And then the last issue they raised was they write, the planning board encourages the construction of sidewalks to connect parking areas with adjacent developments to provide safe pedestrian access in accordance with the code. To further this goal, the planning board requests applicant, in coordination with the board, identifying proposed sidewalk locations to improve pedestrian mobility near 562 Main Street. And I guess we heard last night there was
There
a
was a
comment.
stipulation that the bank would put a sidewalk in front of its building, and that had been volunteered to Erica as part of the process.
Right.
And we're happy to have that condition of the special permit, and so there will be a sidewalk, pedestrian sidewalk, in the front of the building.
And it's just the town land adjacent needs a sidewalk to connect to it.
It'll be like the bridge to nowhere. There'll be a sidewalk. By the way, before I forget, if a formal traffic study had not been submitted to your board, then I will leave a copy of the traffic study so that can be part of the record for this hearing.
Yeah, no, I actually think we had copies.
Okay.
We had copies of the traffic study. Yep.
We're all gonna go home and read it together.
Well, no, I was most impressed with the presentation last night at the tremendous volume of Saturday traffic, because you sort of notice it.
2,000 car difference.
Yeah,
20,000 on a Saturday, 22,000 during the week.
Yeah, no, that's remarkable.
Try taking a left turn out of Sampson Road.
Yeah.
All right, so those are all the comments the planning board had raised. I don't have any additional
Well, there was
issues.
another letter that was generated today. So I think some of the items are covered, and I think we need to at least address. So,
Well, what we just got today was the following last night's planning board meeting, the town planner came up with a list of things that she saw as still being things that the planning board was going to be addressing in the special permit process. And one was the traffic study, which I think, as I read the bylaw, I think it's probably our call on that, and I don't think that's necessary. Sidewalks, it sounds like that's been addressed. Next item was the lighting schedule that includes when lights will be turned on and off at the site. Now, was that something that you agreed to provide the planning board?
We suggested to the planning board that we would like to keep lights on completely 24 hours a day, because as you drive in that driveway on the right and you're approaching an ATM and you're a single unaccompanied adult, there is woods behind you, there's the lacrosse field with woods there, and you might dim those lights. I'm not sure you should be shutting any of the lights off on that property, because they have an obligation to provide a secure setting, and to say that that's not going to be a well-lit, this is not further down near the Sawyer School entrance. This is a fairly developed area, and whether the lights are on or off there, they're not going to be, searchlights that are going to be out there. They're going to be down lights that are beyond the building, and the pole lights, I think. Do you know anything about the pole lights themselves?
Actually, we did have some discussion today about the lighting and what we're hoping. And this has not been submitted to the planning board, as the meeting was just last night, and you haven't seen this either. Essentially, during the daytime, the pole lighting, the pole site lighting will be off. The drive-up canopy will have recessed lighting that will be on, as well as the entries. The front and side egress lights that are on the building will be off during the day. The yard sign and the building sign lighting will be off during the day, and around the ATM lighting will be on. That's a security issue. In the evening, what we're proposing is that all those lights will be on: the pole lighting, the drive-up canopy lighting, the entry canopy, the building lights, the side door lights, the yard sign light, as well as the signal lights for the ATM. Those are the ones that are up on the canopy. And then the ATM surround. So that's the evening hours. The overnight hours, again, all those lights are on. However, we're proposing to dim the pole lighting at this part of the building, so on the west side of the building. The entry canopy lighting would be dimmed, and the building sign lighting as well could be dimmed. So that was the two signs on the side of the building. So essentially, as Mr. Philbin had said, we need lighting for security, especially around the ATM. We need to provide some lighting within the site to get people to the canopy. We don't want a dark site and then an island of light here. But I think we're making the concession that, understanding that we don't always need 100% lighting all the time, we'll dim some of those lights that aren't necessarily related to security, but still provide safe access into the site. So that's something we've discussed with the bank. Again, it hasn't been submitted yet, but that would be our proposal.
Well, actually, I don't have a problem with that, but to your point, you don't know when someone may want to access the ATM to get cash. There are no residential homes anywhere around that. If you look at the site from where the current bank is, you have this parcel is on the right-hand side. You have the veterinary, which is in the middle. There's another parcel on the right with a home. That home is on the market, and our understanding that there's some interest in another commercial entity going in there. So most likely, that will be a commercial entity. Going all the way over, past the field, you have the Condyne building, and then beyond that, you have the senior center facility. But between the open field and the Condyne building, there is a raised mound with quite a bit of trees, and that senior center is pushed back. So I doubt that they'll even have any impact whatsoever. I mean, they may have more impact from the Condyne building lights than yours, so I don't think that's an issue. But other than that, there are no residential structures around there, and there will be no impact, as far as I can see, with having those lights on 24/7.
The other comment,
Or the evening.
the other comment I would suggest is that the two lanterns attached to the front of the building, we would want the ability to keep those on all night to make it look like any other house in town.
Right, right.
So there was some comment as to whether those are also emergency lights, so that if the power went off, those lights would kick on. But I suggested that building's gonna look a lot better with those two lantern lights on during the night.
Yeah.
And so I would hope that would be an acceptable matter.
I mean, these other issues, I don't know, they're things that the planning board, I guess, is planning on thinking or talking about. I'm not sure they impact our decision at all. Well, actually, the planting,
No, well, item number 4, there was some discussion of that last night.
plantings to screen the
Right.
propane tank and well.
There was a plan submitted to Erica that showed additional screening
Right.
at the request of the design review board, and I think Michelle would concur if that board requested it, and following up on that
Yep.
hearing, we did give that information to Erica.
They have the next, they said something about updated stormwater management systems that you had in the letter. that-
Correct, and I touched a little bit up on that earlier when I mentioned I'd be moving those
moving
two
them back,
systems.
gotcha. Discussion regarding use and maintenance of the fire pond at Bolton Office Park. I don't remember hearing anything about that.
No,
Yeah.
but the thing is, that's up to the discretion of the fire department, where they want to get their...
Well, and I think, didn't town meeting just vote some money to maintain fire
Yeah.
ponds?
Exactly. what it did.
Over some opposition. as I recall.
Yes.
And the next item, they had discussion regarding public space. I'm not sure
What that is.
where you put the picnic tables here.
I didn't want to use the bank for meetings.
I don't even know what that is.
Maybe it's something to do with access to the lacrosse field. But
I don't think we were encouraging the use of public space on the site. In particular, not that we are trying to create a separation between the bank property or this property and the town property, both for parking. I mean, we're not looking to encourage kind of that interface.
Right, no, and I would agree with you on that, yeah. So, I'm not sure what that is, but...
Yeah, no, and I think that's, that may be more of a concept. They could be thinking in terms of the overlay where, in certain types of development, you'd be encouraging that, but I don't think that has application here. And then the last item was just construction-related topics, scheduling pre-construction meetings. So, I mean, but all those things we've just been discussing, these are things on the sort of the planning board's. Yeah. And so, I guess at this point I'd open it up unless you have questions.
No, I mean the only thing that struck me just from past history, I'm surprised that they're letting the propane tank go right next to the well.
There's been some discussion about that. Both the fire department and the Board of Health, I guess, weighed in on that with no issue.
Okay.
If there are other regulations that apply, I mean, we'll certainly comply with those. But yeah, it's.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, other than that, I think it's a good use of the property, and it looks like a good plan. And other Clinton Savings Bank buildings I've seen have been very well maintained and work very hard to blend in. So I don't see why this would be any different.
Right. And the design review board has signed off on it. The zoning board of appeals has signed off on it. Who else is?
Board of Health.
Board of Health. Okay,
so we did go through the historical.
Okay, so right. So pretty much everybody is okay with it.
All right, are there any comments from the public? All right. Well, I don't know. It doesn't seem as though we're going to have to continue our hearing. What do you?
No, I don't think so.
I will move that we approve the site plan for a new bank building at 562 Main Street.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Guys, have a great night.
You too.
the next on our agenda, and I apologize for making Senator Flanagan and Representative Hogan wait so long, but the next is an update on the state budget, and we appreciate your coming in and letting us know where things stand. Sure, come on up. Yeah, come on down.
How's everybody tonight?
Good, thanks. Do you want me to do that? Go right ahead, Senator.
Well, thank you for having us here tonight, and it's great to come back and talk about what we've been doing in the State House. We don't mind waiting, it's sort of like being in one of our sessions.
We can take it.
More so the House and the Senate, but nevertheless, it's more.
And there's
one
only
of our
15
sessions.
minutes.
That's not a bad deal. Currently, I am the Vice Chairman of the Senate Ways and Means Committee, so we just wrapped up our budget process in early July, as we're mandated to do that, and it's a balanced budget. This year it's $39.5 billion. We have very important investments in our local aid, education, human services. Two of the areas more so substance abuse and mental health, and treatment and prevention of those types of illnesses, more so than any, because we're seeing the epidemic of the opiate addictions that are coming up here, especially in North Central Mass. We have record funding for regional schools, Chapter 70, regional school transportation. I think we've made our priorities very clear on Beacon Hill and what we need out here, and that we need more money for our school system and our regional schools. Certainly there's a lot of different interests that are competing for the state budget, but we think that we have a pretty sound investment in what we passed and what was signed by the governor. In terms of the overall budget, things are getting better. We were really able to incubate ourselves during the recession. We had a lot of biotech and healthcare industries. Other states are still struggling. We have one of the highest stabilization funds in the country from a non-oil producing state, which is really good, because when we've had to go back to it year after year, especially when it was raining and pouring, it's been there, and it's really saved some of our communities. I can remember when I first ran for office for the Senate in 2008, someone had said to me, well, why'd you put it away and not spend it? This is why. This is exactly why. And so it's really important to us that we did this. Our higher ed has been a priority. A lot of kids are going to state schools now. They're not going to the private schools that they were going to. So we were able to freeze the rates at UMass for the second year in a row by investing into the higher ed system. Stop me if I go too fast. Substance abuse funding, certainly we've seen it here in Bolton, we've seen it everywhere. I mean, I don't think at this point there's any town that is really out of this loop of what's going on. Certainly I was the lead of a special committee on substance abuse and addiction treatment, and we went across the state, and I can tell you, from North Adams to Hyannis, nobody is immune to this. So we made some financial investments into that. We've also kind of gone head-to-head with the insurance companies to mandate that they provide true treatment and not just one form of treatment, because we believe that it's important that everyone has access to whatever treatment they choose, and hope that that's going to begin to help. And people often say to me, why do you talk about the addiction piece? We understand it's a healthcare problem, it's a public safety problem, it's an economic problem. I can't tell you the number of people that I have visited in detoxes and rehab centers in jail who used to have jobs, who no longer have jobs. And they're left their families without an income. So this is really an economic issue that we see. When you talk to any employer, when you have people missing work and you can't count on them, you tend to ask why. So we have that. We really our bond rating is AA++. I mean, it's a great bond rating. We've worked really hard to have that bond rating. I think you've seen us take a lot of tough votes to say no to some issues that we'd love to say yes to, but also say yes to infrastructure improvement and to getting our roads done and our bridges done. And while that's not what a lot of people would like to see, it's what our state needs to be able to drive the economy, especially up here. We need our roads more than anything. There's not a lot of rail that's going to bring products up to north central Massachusetts. We need our highways. Certainly, I had the fortunate distinction to now have Berlin in my district, and I lost Ashby. It takes me like 3 or 4 highways to get to Berlin, or no matter where I am. Thank God there's a mall there too. But our infrastructure is important, and if you look around and see the work that's being done, there's probably a lot of us that are cursing in our cars as we're sitting in traffic, but the truth of the matter is it's going to help us going forward. So our economic development, we're trying to create jobs. We have the jobs package. There's a lot of different intricacies to that. One of the biggest conversations I think we had was the part where you can't talk about what you do. It's like the right to privacy and all that. And, they were talking about kids working at daycare centers who couldn't go work at other daycare centers because they give away the store. And it just got to the point where I can understand in the .com era the need to have those types of agreements in place, but not now, not with certain industries. So we really were talking about that. Our cultural council, we had $12 million in funding in our cultural council. Arts is another way to go. People are really getting into the arts. And we really want to help people with housing. Homelessness has been a major issue. The MRVP program, the Mass Rental Voucher Program, we had $65 million in it because we have people who are homeless today that were not homeless a year ago and 2 years ago. I can tell you that in the time that I've been working on Beacon Hill, it'll be 19 years in December that I've been on Beacon Hill. Never have I seen people come into our office demanding help at the rates that they are now. They're not even asking, they're demanding. I have people come in and say, at 2 o'clock on a Friday, I'm homeless and have no place to sleep tonight. What are you going to do for me? And it's just getting to the point where families are just in crisis. And so we've put some provisions in place and we've put some funding in place to really try to combat that. We want to make sure we protect our water supply. We want to make sure we protect our environment. But at the same time, we also have to strengthen what we do for families. We're also taking a lot of difficult votes. I was on the Welfare Reform Conference Committee, and it was tough to say no to families, and it's tough when you have different types of punishments for people that want to misuse state funds. But I think we have a responsibility to ensure the state funds are being used properly, and so that's one of the things that we've done is welfare reform. One of the big questions that comes along with welfare is, are the pictures on the IDs? Yeah, they are. But you're not hearing about that now. It's sort of gone by the wayside. It's difficult because that EBT card everybody talks about also has SNAP benefits on there, which is food stamps. And anyone in the house can use food stamp the program. So if I was in there and my stepson needed to go to the store, I could give it to him. Well, now there's a picture on it. So it's really been difficult trying to establish the needs that the people want, but also maintaining the value of the program. I will tell you that with between the welfare reform, the budget reform, we did drug addiction, we did the compounding issue for the drug scandal, we did a whole host of issues I'm sure the representative will talk about. So it's been a busy couple of years on Beacon Hill. We're not done. This is a very tricky time in Massachusetts. Like it or not, we're getting a new governor. Some like it, some don't. We don't know who that governor is, which means we don't know what their priorities are, which means that we're going to have to be more vigilant than ever come January to make sure that our priorities are their priorities. And that's really going to take a team effort. I know that we send out various emails from my office trying to keep the cities and towns in tune with what we're doing, but we're also going to need some help when the new governor comes in to make sure that they understand what our needs are. We have a really good delegation up here. This morning I was fortunate to be the guest speaker at the Montechusett Home Care Breakfast, and I was telling them that the perception is we don't get along. the perception is everyone's out for themselves, and the Republicans and the Democrats aren't agreeing, and this one doesn't get along with that one. You don't see that here, and I'll tell you, as the senator for the Worcester and Middlesex district, you don't see that in my delegation. We have 2 Republicans that we get along with very well, Sheila Harrington and Kim Ferguson, and we have a number of Democratic legislators, and usually when there's one of us, there's 8 of us on an issue. So we tend to back each other up regardless of where we come from. So with that, I can take questions, or we can certainly let the representative
Do you want to continue right through?
do the fun stuff.
Sure.
I will mention a few other of the pieces of legislation that happened. We had the Valor Act passed, which establishes municipal veteran volunteer program for municipalities to reduce property tax bills for veterans. Also establishes a special commission to study, make recommendations relative to training, certification, professional licensure. It's called the Valor Act 2 because we passed in the last session the first Valor Act, and what we're trying to do is to put things right and make opportunities for education, jobs available to veterans in every possible way. And our veteran services are unsurpassed by any other state ×2. It's terrific programs that we have were modeled for other states in that regard. I also like to mention as the chair of the Elder Caucus at the State House that Elder Affairs did very well this year with the advent of an improved budget. So the home care programs no longer have a waiting list, and that's critical to families, critical to seniors to be able to stay in their homes. We fully funded the Council on Aging, and that's great. We also have incentive programs, and those grants through the Council on Aging look at regional issues and how we might be able to regionalize services of all kinds. And it allows any town or groups of towns to apply for a grant in order to look at those regionalized services. And I know that there's some talk among many of the towns in this area around COA and what might be able to happen, in a forward-thinking way, and looking to that. As the chair of the Elder Caucus, also we did very well with our state aid to libraries with an improved with an improved financial situation, and we're able to add $2 million to that, and that will do well in terms of bringing us into a 21st century libraries. We have the pride of Bolton up the street, so it's very, very helpful. We passed gun safety legislation, and that again will be a model for the nation. Years and years have passed, I dare say decades, since there's been a comprehensive gun safety bill passed. And it was passed with both sides of the aisle and many sides of the issue present and in support. And it took a long time to do, but we did it, and a lot of people put some skin in the game. But what we're able to do is really come up with effective legislation that does not attack the lawful gun owner, but in fact enhances the ability to get your FID card. But we're also able to create portals for background checks, creates a new gun trafficking unit within the state police, and the compromise bill in the legislature shifts the burden to a police chief to petition a judge in district court within 90 days to deny a rifle or shotgun permit. That allows anyone that's in a town to be able to apply for an FID card, and then if that does not happen, that they can ask why. And that was one of the issues that on the side of the gun owners they were feeling frustrated around. So not everybody on the extreme sides were perfectly happy with what happened, but in fact we were able to approach a very reasonable compromise that no other state in the nation has been able to achieve. So we're very, very proud of that. I also wanted to mention that we're well aware of the Kinder Morgan pipeline situation, as everyone knows, and the resolution passed by the Board of Selectmen has been sent to all of the offices requested, and we also have a resolution in the House asking that an immediate moratorium be placed on the developments related to the project until the new session begins. And again, as the Senator had said, we are coming into a new administration. There's going to be new ways to look at things, and also we're not there to discuss and have open dialogue about what exactly is going on, so I've asked that. The one thing I did want to very specifically talk about tonight, and I will leave you with these folders rather than get into it too much, is the economic, the Edge Communities Commission. It's called the 495 Metro West Suburban Edge Communities Commission. And it's sort of a, you can pass it down that way. It's a mouthful, but essentially it was it was a commission that I was able to have passed in the budget. And it is a way to examine the development challenges that we experience here in our towns or edge suburbs around gateway communities and beyond. And what the commission will try to do is address issues like transportation, water, cell and energy infrastructure, transit services, downtown redevelopment, and to look at these issues. These have really been taken on by the gateway communities, and that there are ways to present proposals to develop pilot programs through the state to bring both funding, technical services, and other resources to bear, because we're all trying to get to the 21st century in our towns. And it's been difficult. And what this does is set up a membership of representatives, state agencies, to sit down and discuss these things and come up with proposals. So what I've put in your packet is actually the annual report from the 495 Metro West Partnership, who's going to help us head this up. We'll put together the commission and be able to present a report. So I wanted you folks to look at it, and in particular, with the Suburban Edge Community Commission, I wanted you to look at those people that would serve on it, which also includes municipalities, 5 municipal officials. So just for folks to look at it, it may not be something that you want to extend beyond, but this does include communities from Westford to Rentham. So we're really looking at that 495 Metro West and where we are in terms of our infrastructure, our community development, economic development, and where we might be able to go in the future. So we're looking forward to this. I just wanted to keep you folks apprised as a Board of Selectmen. The town administrator will certainly keep you apprised as we move forward as well with it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to call the office.
Representative, actually, I got an email from Paul Matthews yesterday on that, and I exchanged, we had a bit of exchange as far as representation for one of the 5 seats. I expressed some interest, and he indicated that it was a gubernatorial appointment that
yes,
you have to submit a packet.
And that has all the information of where you would submit in the packet. So.
You were mentioned prominently in the email, hoping to get this started.
Yes, we're able to. It was really sitting down with the Speaker of the House and saying, this is terrific about the gateway communities, but I am concerned that there are communities out there like mine, all 4 of mine, and all along 495 and Metro West that really need the same kind of ability to present proposals to move our area forward, our region forward. So
That's great.
This will do that.
That's great.
No, well, yeah, thank you both very much. I think Bolton is very well served by its representatives, and I'm impressed at how much both of you spend the time when we have events in Bolton on your frequent presences, and we appreciate that.
Greatly appreciate it.
The one thing I do want to add, though, is that Melissa Ahola is now my district director, who is here tonight. So you'll see her and get emails from her over the course of time, just as we move forward. And she's been with me for a while, but is ready to go out into the district. But if you have questions, I mean, please feel free to let us know. I know there's a lot of things that are going on, and there's a lot of moving parts. We're not formally in session until January, but the work doesn't stop. So we just we get to focus on being out here a little bit more.
Yes, this is a good time to have conversations.
No, thank you very much.
Great.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is a request from Parks and Recreation Commission for permission to hold a Halloween parade.
It's actually a formality to ask you to allow us to close the road at 3 o'clock on Saturday, November 1st. We have permission from the library. We've talked to the chief, says fine. The fire guys say fine. We went to the school. So now it's just you guys say, yeah, you can close the road for 15 minutes.
Sounds good. 400 kids? It's gonna be wild.
And you're welcome to march in the parade dressed up however you want. So that's it.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. Despite the 20,000 cars a day that go by on Saturday, some of them will just have to slow down.
So do you guys make a
Can we keep it
motion?
closed until April?
Okay, so that's it.
Do you need a motion on that?
Yeah.
Okay, I move that we approve the Western Parks and Recreation to hold their Halloween parade and party on November 1st and close 117 for around 15 minutes, around 3 o'clock, is it?
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Thank you.
Thanks. The next item, we're almost getting back to schedule, is a request from Dr. David for approval to place a sign at Dentist Street by Dr. David.
Evening, I'm Bill David, actually. Carl's my wife, and I am one of the co-owners of the building. So she's actually away of business right now. So what I did is I provided for Linda's direction a photo of it, the dimensions. What it is, it's an Invisalign sign. So one of the things that Carl provides in her office is Invisalign, which is braces that manipulate the orthodontic procedure that she does. The sign, as you have it there, it's temporary by nature in terms it's not affixed to anything. It would be a freestanding sign. It would be in the front. And as weather permits, so come February, that sign won't be out there because it's got some paper parts to it. But the thought process would be once the weather comes up again, she may periodically want to display it. But obviously can't do that till we have approval for it.
So this is, you would put up like in front or next to the existing sign structure?
Yes.
When the bank currently has some vinyl sign on that structure.
Correct.
Right?
On either side, I think it's like a banner type of sign.
And they're going to be, well, I guess
Across the street.
Yeah. Once they move across the street, the space is going to open up there.
Exactly.
But you're proposing this sort of in the interim.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think longer term, even if she wanted to affix it, it'd probably be a banner type thing. And I guess it's this great opportunity for me to get clarification. So if we can move to a banner type thing that would display on the larger signage, would I need to come back to get approval for that?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Clarification.
But though I think once, if you said we're going to have a 5-foot long banner on the side, if you want to switch it from Invisalign to something else,
Right.
I mean, I don't know that we would necessarily, I mean, once the format is set up, he wants to rotate signs through.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't think you need to approve the content, I mean, per se, it's just that, you're approving the concept of the sign,
Right.
the
Yeah.
dimensions and so forth.
And possibly some design guidelines.
Yes.
That's right, you don't want the neon.
Yeah,
on it.
right.
Now, what's this sign?
So that sign was for a prior request. I don't know why it's embedded in the mail.
Okay, so we're just talking about this.
That's
So
right,
you're just
yeah.
talking
Okay,
about,
okay.
yeah, that wasn't.
Evidently, I have a photo bomb in my letter here.
Do we have any public comment on this? Michael?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think it was last spring, perhaps, maybe a year ago. There was a sign about the size of a sandwich sign on the west side of the driveway going into the complex. It was anchored with some rocks, and I actually was the person that complained about that because it didn't look very nice. So I'm glad that they're here for a banner. This wouldn't be really a flapping banner. It's going to be on those poles that sort of hold it taut, correct?
Right, it's actually...
So it would look a lot more professional. Oh, so this is going to be a horizontal banner.
Right, and that other, I think the one you're mentioning was, so we had I won't speak to but we had someone do the painting on and the banner was to help them promote it after the fact.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So, and at the time we didn't, that's how I learned about this process, that we had approval for. So it was taken down, and it was taken down in a haphazard way, so I do apologize for that. It was just put down so it wasn't visible, so it was sitting there.
I think
Wow.
most dentists, at least orthodontists, I mean, Invisalign is not a new concept. It's been around a while, so
Right.
really this
But
is
Carl's actually been
additional
doing it.
advertising rather than putting into the common, get your teeth straightened with Invisalign. It's a great process, but I think it's extra advertising for, it's like someone saying, we do heart stents, putting the sign up on the wall.
I think it's analogous to if you look at Clinton Savings Bank and you look at them, they advertise new interest rates. It's the same thing, right? Everyone offers interest rates. as
Yeah,
well
and
as
I've always
set
thought that
interest
sign was
rates.
one of the ugliest signs that you ever approved. The original Clinton Bank sign was really attractive. And then you put up the white one, approved the white one with the green things, and it has grown, there's no doubt. So some of that'll be moved over to the other side of the street. I really don't think this is great, but I'm not a selectman, thank you.
I'm fine with it. I think we need to allow some ability for the businesses in town to advertise, their goods and services, and I think this one is fairly tasteful, not too big, so I don't really have a problem with it.
Do we want to put a time limit on it for, to come back for review at some point, or, or?
You said as a practical matter, you're not gonna make it, once the snow's fly.
Right, it's not a,
Yeah, so it'll be out now and then it'll be
It won't
out
be visible.
kind of
Certainly if we get the
spring,
snow
summer,
next
or-
year,
yeah.
what we had last year, it won't be visible. So.
Yeah.
I don't think we necessarily put a time limit on it. I mean, it'll be up for a while now, and then once the snow starts coming, and from what I heard from our DPW chief, it's going to be a really brutal winter, so.
Okay.
I'm afraid of.
Okay, well, I guess I move that we approve the sign for dentistry by Dr. David, as shown.
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is a request from the Conservation Trust for approval of a sign at the former Smith Garage, 719 Main Street.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Meg O'Leary. I think some of us met last year with the Florence Sawyer Playground Committee. Hopefully this is a formality, but we're looking to post a new sign on the former Smith property that indicates that it's the future site of the Bolton Town Common.
And this is replacing the sign that's up there now on the garage?
It would actually go over it for now. It's a temporary sign. It's vinyl. The garage will be down in a few weeks.
Well, I was wondering about that. What are you going to attach it to?
Just to be clear here, we'll actually be doing a town mailing in about 2 weeks' time, where we'll be surveying the entire town to ask them for their opinions on what they'd like to see in the town common. And we've just gotten the impression that some people don't even quite know that the project is going on. And so we think it's important for this period of time to let people know that this is the future site of that common. I'll likely be back to you in 8 weeks to ask you for a new sign, because this is actually, it's literally a vinyl sign that would hang over that, just to indicate to people, so that when they receive the survey in the mail, that they know this is the site that we're talking about. And I'll be back in time to ask you for a permanent, not a permanent sign, but a sign that could that will be freestanding, that we could put up during the actual construction period.
Seems pretty straightforward.
I actually would prefer, I mean, I like the concept, and certainly I would prefer that it's the proposed future site. Because I think for the perhaps uneducated, or uneducated is the wrong word, but the unaware individuals, this sort of implies that it's a fait accompli, and it might also be assumed that this is something that the town is doing. So I think for the time being, proposed future site, I think would be preferred.
I hear what you're saying. I feel strongly that Bob Romer and I are co-chairing the initiative. This is our fundraising efforts are incredibly strong at the moment. We have not even launched a public campaign. We feel strongly that this is not. There's some to read the Bolton Independent and to sort of hear some buzz about town, people are thinking, is this a proposed project or is this happening? And it's important from our messaging perspective to let people know that this is from our view, this is something that is going to happen. Now, I'd be happy to, I would say that we could talk about a compromise, which would be that we could adjust the sign to say future site of the Bolton Town Center, a privately funded initiative. I think that we'll keep people regularly apprised. The Bolton Independent has given us a weekly column where we'll be saying what's going on with it. But what part of the reason for putting the sign forward is that people are sort of saying, is it going to happen? Isn't it going to happen? And it's just our belief that we have a major stake in the ground, and we want people to know that for the purposes of our campaign, that we intend to make this the future site. Now, if our fundraising initiatives aren't as positive as don't go the way we hope, maybe it will be just a green park. If our fundraising initiatives go the way we hope, hopefully it'll be a park with many amenities. We are of the mindset that this is the future site of the Bolton Town Common, and so getting rid of that, people who are doubtful is what we're trying to do with this sign.
Well, I like your suggestion of the additional wording.
Okay, great. And I'd be happy to revise the sign to include a privately funded initiative.
I think that's fabulous.
Terrific.
That's even better than mine.
Okay, great.
Okay, I move that we approve the sign for the Bolton Conservation Trust with the modified wording, adding
A privately funded
initiative, yeah, to the sign as shown.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
The next item on the agenda is an update on Persons Park. And I was actually out at Persons Park this evening before our meeting, and I was very impressed. I mean, the painting job is nice. You've repaired the garage, you've painted the garage, but you've repaired where somebody kicked a hole in the garage. It's all picked up. It looks pretty neat. I think it's a little. I don't quite understand why the portrait of Lieutenant Nelson has him with the "Live Long and Prosper" sign.
Is that you, Rona?
Only for those
But it
old enough to
actually, when you're down by the dock and you look up and you can see the police silhouette, it reminded me of how, I think it was the transit police who stopped bicycle thefts by having a cardboard cutout of a cop at the Alewife station or something.
I like them.
Linda and I were out there recently as well, I
Yeah.
think maybe last Thursday, and it does look much nicer right there.
Yeah.
And the boulders are in place and the road is open, and we do have signage for that.
Yeah, though there's no signage there. I did actually drive. I missed it twice before I got in because it has that little the address, and you say, well, it's someone's house. You know, what's the number?
149.
149. And so if you're not in the know, you don't know that 149 is Persons Park. You say, oh, I don't want to drive up someone's driveway.
Yeah, no, the signage I was referring to was pointing
Oh, I
out
know.
where the road is and so forth.
Yeah.
Public access.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. Why don't you sort of fill us in on what's not obvious?
Well, I presume you have a little handout that I gave to you. And the purpose of this meeting was more to learn about the future plans, which basically is a grant we applied for 2 years ago with an added page of curricula that could happen at the camp. And this would not be every day, 6 hours a day. It would be several hours every week and supervised, of course, with adults. We're thinking more children 8 and up to seniors. And this is basically what we had presented to the Community Foundation of North Central Massachusetts. And their directive really is more to help people in need. But, you know, we got a favorable, it was nice, but we don't have any money right now. And this would be run effectively by the Friends of Persons Park from for whom we have over 36 people that have signed up, and families among those. Everybody was very enthusiastic about the idea when they saw us painting, and I don't think there were any complaints about what was being done. Because the people that go there are really enthusiastic about the place because it's quiet.
You mentioned that you had a security camera there. I didn't. That wasn't obvious to me.
Well, it's a security camera. The Cultural Council has provided us with funding for a security camera.
And who's monitoring that, or is that just sort of recorded?
Well, I put it up on the 18th, and I checked it on, I think it was Tuesday. And everyone except Rana and I drive so fast you can't get much information. So there was a couple that walked in and came out, so you can see that. I have relocated from the original place because I won't say exactly where it is, but it should get better results.
Did you record Linda and I visiting there?
Were we the couple?
You weren't walking.
We drove
No,
in
there
there.
were different cars, tan cars, the police, of course, red cars. But
You didn't see the picnic basket or anything?
or the blanket afterwards sticking out of the trunk. No, but I'll tell you, setting up that camera was funny. I called Cutterback about it, and I said to the woman, I have real respect now for hunters that use these wildlife cameras. She says, yeah, we speak to their wives all the time because it's kind of complex. But the police were glad that it was up, so we should get better. Things are recorded on a little SD disc, and so we swapped them out. But, I mean, originally I was going to put it in back toward the back of the garage because people tend to go into that area there and litter and everything. But the police just felt having recording the traffic. I mean, there's not a lot of traffic there, quite frankly, and especially now because it's not summer.
Have you ever considered I mean, the program you're thinking of seems like on a very small scale, kind of what Tom Denny is doing. And you talked to the trust about whether they could have a branch there.
Well, there's no reason that they couldn't use the facility for some of the Tom Denny Nature Camp work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is the town facility.
Yeah.
And
well, no, it just struck me because that seems like I mean, it's for many years they've been able to maintain that.
They have an outfit now out of Vermont, though, that's actually running them. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's a special professional group.
Four Winds.
Four Winds, yeah, that's running that now. But there's no reason that it couldn't be shared.
Mm-hmm.
They actually just run school stuff.
Do you know what the date is for the projected date for the grant awards?
You mean for the Cultural Council?
Yes.
Well, Bolton is the only cultural council around who has a...
Oh, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. I meant the Community Foundation of North Central.
Oh, well, that was submitted in April.
You don't have a pending...
2012.
You don't have a pending...
No,
I thought you meant it was resubmitted. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I took what I had sent in for that grant and effectively gave it to you with an enhanced page about the curriculum, the things that we could cover.
Okay.
Yeah, and no, that was, they had two things. They had proposals and they had actual grants. And we had put in a proposal which was, actually, it had a form. I think one of the ones that I gave you folks had that at the end. I think it's this one. Yeah, and it was just written, and then you had, well, it's not this one. It had an official page. Oh, here it is, sorry. It had the write-up that I did the summary, and then it had a common proposal sheet like this. And it also had a tax, the town tax-free thing on it. So it was a very simple grant to do. I'm not a grant writer, but I'm going to get better.
No, I'm sorry, I just drew the inference that that grant had been resubmitted.
No, that was just, the information was drawn from that. I mean, revitalizing Persons Park is an idea that's been around since 2006. And
So the road from here, though, what's next on your,
well,
for the
we don't
Friends
want
of
to,
Persons Park?
we want an okay from you before, for example, I found out there's an outfit called Harbor Freight, and we could buy a small generator there for less than $100. So when we went in, we could have light bulbs and things that would show inside when we were tidying up and painting and doing things before the electricity actually got reconnected. I mean, that's something, if you go in, if it's daylight, yes, you could see, but that was on our it was on our wish list. So actually, Officer Keller told us about that.
But
You
to
can-
point the chimney too.
Yeah, and I think the most urgent thing right now is to get someone to recap the chimney. There was a piece of a wooden box that was put over it, and that fell apart and it's hanging off. So we want to make sure that the chimney, the stone chimney, is covered for the winter. And repointing was one of the things that we wanted 2 years ago when we applied for the grant. I actually have two very diverse estimates for repointing the chimney. It's much worse on the pond side than it is on the side where there's some roofing, because people could point it easier where there was roofing. So it has been taken care of much more on the south side. But those are the most urgent things that I see for right now. I mean, obviously it won't be open in the winter, although you can snowshoe and cross-country ski there.
But we need to repair a couple of broken windows too.
Yes, there has been some additional vandalism up at the top gable on the west side. But the shutters are now secure.
And we also want to put a some kind of a gutter at the front door and the back door so that the water doesn't splash on the steps and make them slippery and spatter and take away some of the paint at the back door too.
Yeah, we spoke, I spoke with Harold, and I also spoke with Don, because Harold defers to Don for anything, he would do. I just spoke to him
We all
about
do, yeah.
ideas, because the town wouldn't do this, it would be done by us.
Right.
Back, there's a very rudimentary gutter, a butted board about this big, it's a V in the back door. The one in the front has been torn off. So Rana had said, find out if we could put up like a flashing V or something to direct water away from that entrance that you see when you drive in. And as we get more rain in the spring, when it's wet rather than snow, that's going to be important. I did put the cocoa mat back up there because that absorbs the water and it doesn't splash back. But yeah, that shouldn't be expensive. But this is not town expense, remember?
Yeah, well, no, as I said, I'm sort of impressed with the work you've done, and I wouldn't mind letting you continue to sort of work on the property. But I still, I mean, what's missing is, what's the sort of real plan for the future. But as far as this sort of cosmetic work, I think it's great that you're doing that.
Well, we did have someone come forth who wants to be caretaker, and Don said it's a little premature for that. But this would be someone who is only here 3 seasons a year, spring, summer, and fall. And they're enthusiastic about the place. And there would be a private room upstairs for them, and it would be not a lot of furniture or anything. It would still be taxidermy and minerals and things around. But because this person also has, family up in this area. So it would be someone who would sort of act as a park ranger. He said, I'd love to give speeches and tell people about the history of it. And also have a presence there so people would know that you can't really try to break in all the time.
But that sort of presupposes that you're going to be operating the building and there's a significant amount of work that would need to be done before that building really is habitable again. So it's, you know, I think you're sort of assuming that, you know, a coat of paint is going to take care of the situation. I've been in that building a number of times, and you know, there are structural issues that have to be dealt with. And if that person lives there, then the septic has to be reconnected, electric has to be
Yeah, the septic has been tested, by the way, on the 2nd of September. Bill Brookings called and said that it has been, it's ready to go.
But, you know, but the cost to get that place ready for something like that, I think, is probably beyond the scope of what, you know, we would be looking to do. And that would be something that was part of the, you know, the plan that we were hoping that you were going to bring forward.
Well, the idea was that the town wasn't going to have to pay for any of this. Reconnecting the electric and repointing the chimney and turning on the water.
What do you think it's going to cost to get that building?
Well, we asked for $10,000 from the grant, and that was including septic working, plumbing working, electricity, repointing the chimney, getting it started.
Well, there's also painting, there's also structural work.
There's also volunteers.
Well, but there's still, I don't think you're going to be able to cover all that with $10,000.
But that was just the start of it.
Yes, but that's just a start. But that's you're presupposing that, you know, he's going to be giving speeches and there's going to be minerals and there's going to be taxidermy. I don't think you get to an operating facility for $10,000. I really don't.
Well, if you want to bring it up to code, that wasn't the idea. It's a camp, Mr. Wysocki. It's a camp. It's not Century Mill Estates.
No, but still, there are liability and insurance issues.
Yes, and those in the contract for the caretaker would have to be worked out. With, you know, council, everything would have to be approved. Nothing would be done without the town's approval.
Yeah, well, I mean, the caretaker, it's an interesting idea. I think it is way premature. And I would think the 3 months you need the caretaker are through the winter, no? I mean, if you're gonna...
Well, it's going to be boarded up over the winters.
No. All right.
I mean, it'll have to be boarded up, even though it's still open.
Yeah, but I think, you know, as far as pointing the chimney, I think, I don't know, people think if you're able to raise funds to do that, it seems, I don't have any objection to that.
But I think
you don't like the slippery slope here.
Well, no, I don't. If people want to,
that's the hill down to the lake.
No, I mean, if people want to volunteer or people want to contribute and work to repair, but I think we need to make it clear that this is not any guarantee that, you know, because they invest $10,000 now, it's like, well, we've already invested 10, so you have to let us do more. You know, so I think it's a situation where, you know, if you can get to the point where, as we had said earlier, that, you know, that building has to be in good enough shape for it to sustain whatever you need to sustain, because we don't want to have a situation where the town then is sort of backed into a corner to assume control of that, and now we have a liability relative to maintenance and everything else that goes along with that.
Well, remember, this was just a near-term future, the next 5 to 20 years. Once Parks and Rec gets left millions of dollars and they want to build the pavilion, the whole thing might change. Because that's what they wanted to do, was not have that building and have an open pavilion. And the thing is, rather than let it rot into the ground, since people are going to be using it for fishing and swimming, somebody wants to give another dock. So if we got permission from Conservation Commission to cut the brush there, we could have a dock for fishing and a dock for swimming. because it's not really safe to have people swimming.
But you don't need the cottage to have a dock for fishing and a dock for swimming.
No, and our emphasis is the cottage and the garage. It's the structures. But one of the prospective members of Friends of Persons Park wants to contribute that. So that won't happen this year, obviously, because summer is gone. So,
But I think we, to Larry's point, I think we still need to see more of a plan. I mean, repointing the chimney and maybe doing some painting. But I think we need to see a plan, more concrete plan.
well, we'll probably have an open house first. And that in itself, we'll have to get
Open house where?
at the cottage.
Don't literally open the house.
I think you need to be careful of talking about an open house if we think we have code issues in there that create an unsafe environment.
It is unsafe. It is unsafe, and
Yeah, no, that's why I said, do not literally open the house.
But you can look in from outside, but I mean, having the general public going through there, I think would be dangerous.
yes.
But the general public went in there from 1997 until, what, 2005?
Well, it's now 2014,
Six.
and 9 years later, a lot has happened there.
A lot hasn't happened there. That's why it's in the condition that it is.
I understand the condition it's in, which is why I'm reminding the board, and also, I wouldn't gloss over, and I know I'm not saying anything you don't already know, but I wouldn't gloss over the fact that, if we're talking about a longer-term plan to actually have a caretaker in there, we can't not bring it up to code. It has to be brought up to code. You have to have an occupancy permit, which means it meets code. So I wouldn't just ignore that.
Well, that's my point. Right, exactly. I don't think $10,000 gets you there. I really don't.
So, what's the next step? We'll have another update in March.
So, I think there are a couple of things that we need to do to help stabilize it for the winter. One is you're redoing the box over the chimney, and the other, there are a couple of windows that need to be fixed or boarded up. Just to keep,
Right.
maintain the weather tight, a reasonably weather tight shell. And then possibly some flashing or Yankee gutter or something over the doors
Well, we certainly don't want it deteriorating more over the winter.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that worked. I'm fine with that work being done.
Yeah.
That's what we were trying to do.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Protect it through.
And we also want to protect the paneling so that the painting we've done stays around too. Put a coat over it so it's protected.
No, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
But we want to try and make sure that there's no more vandalism.
No, and the camera's a good idea.
Yeah.
We wanted to have art classes there too. It isn't just, outdoor things. It's a lot of kids want more art and they don't get enough of it in school.
I was also talking with Craig McCrae's wife has the Bolton music school. And they were very interested in it. She gives lessons in guitar, piano, violin, strings. And there's no reason that they couldn't do that in the woods instead of at their house on Main Street. But we, to get the Friends of Persons Park going, we need to know that you're going to effectively entrust us with a plan, so we'll continue to fix it up some and then see what we can do for fundraising to get it useful. But I don't want to spend a lot on things if it's not going to be allowed to at least have a little more care, actually a lot more care than it's had in the past 10 years.
Well, it's a little chicken and the egg problem here, I think. I mean, it seems like
the rooster came first, so don't worry about the chicken and
we're
the
in
egg.
agreement that the things that you wanted to do in the short term make sense, but if you're saying we can't, when you don't really have a long range plan yet, we can't commit that, don't worry, that's fine. I mean, we need to know what that is. So I think the best we can give you is this work you've contemplated sort of pre-winter, I think makes sense, and you can go forward with
And
that.
I think next spring, we can have, one person said, oh, it costs $85,000 to bring this up to code. We need to have a couple more estimates. You don't have things done where you have one person say.
We actually
Right, yeah.
originally had money in the budget to have an engineer look at it and give us a good report.
Yeah,
but-
because
That's right, town
but
meeting.
that got
different
trimmed.
people, charge different amounts. And so that's something that we need to look at. And we're going to get new pointing chimney estimates too, because that was 2.5 years ago, and there was a big diversity, and one of them was over $2,000 and the other one was much less than that.
Yeah.
So, and there's nothing to say we can't ask for pro bono work and materials too. The Friends of Persons Park would have individual, senior, family, and business memberships. And for the businesses, well, someone suggested $100. Really, it's pro bono. If we need some plywood or lumber or whatever, they could donate that.
We also wanted to have it checked out for where the lines were on the property, because the Boy Scouts are encroaching on the town property.
On the western boundary, they have 5 or 6 tent frames that are on there, and they've actually built a structure right near the west boundary. But if it's less than 200 square feet, the building inspector, he said he'd look at it. He isn't too worried about it. It's like a shower house or something. But we do need to make sure that the Boy Scouts don't continue to use it if the town's going to be using it.
They need to know where the line is.
Yeah.
We were going to get a surveyor, see if we could have it surveyed, and Harold Brown said that the boundaries are stone wall on the east side, stone wall on the west side.
That's probably right. That's probably what the deed says.
Yeah.
So.
The west stone wall is in really bad shape too. And they also had a place for a fire that was over the line too.
Just so the board knows, the Boy Scouts have an easement across the entrance driveway.
Yes.
And we use that at their sufferance.
I thought the entrance driveway, they don't have we have an easement across there.
I'm sorry, we have an easement across,
Okay,
yes.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's right. That's right.
But Harold says there is enough property there so that our own town driveway could be constructed if it was absolutely necessary. And there also is an easement from the town that allows the Boy Scouts to drive their trucks across the beachfront to get from the Adventure Day camp over to the other side.
All right.
So they were in agreement for them to box up the chimney, repair some windows, put in some gutters and the like, some additional painting,
And maybe
Talk in the
get the
spring.
generator just so when the door is unboarded, we could have light in there to work with.
Like for window repair or something? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because the last time the window not only got broken, but the frame was also destroyed as well. So if that was fixed, it would have to be done from the inside.
So it would be for the purpose of
And that
doing
would be-
repair and not...
Holding an open house.
Yeah, right. And that won't be until, I don't think, the spring anyway.
You gotta bring the marshmallows. For some more.
All right. Well, thanks very much. All right. The next item on our agenda is the town administrator report, starting with the ever popular update on Minuteman.
I was not allowed to give a Minuteman update at our last meeting, so, I have to reinstitute the...
and it'll be twice as long.
No, I'm just going to be very quick. We did have our first building committee in quite some time, building committee meeting on Monday, September 15th, and we have another one this coming Monday, the 29th. we have set a pretty aggressive schedule between now and the end of the calendar year. But one of the things that was discussed at the last meeting was that the chair felt it was important to appoint a couple of subcommittees. One to deal with non-MSBA, a non-MSBA renovation plan for the scenario if we do not receive MSBA funding. And the other one was a communications subcommittee. And he solicited volunteers. I said I would work on either where he thought I could best serve, and I've been appointed to the, or been requested to agree to serve on the communications committee. So that's what I'll be doing. In what capacity, I'm not sure yet. But we are on a pretty tight time frame because now that this 628 limit, thank you, has been voted on by the school committee. Our engineer and our architect are working on schematics, and we're going to be seeing a first cut of schematics, I think, next week. And since they need to get the final, the final vision into MSBA for January, we need to be raising the level of awareness in the 16 towns pretty quickly, which is the need for communication and so forth. I actually suggested to the superintendent that perhaps at the November Tri-Town meeting, he come out and present to 3 towns at once.
Good idea.
He was really receptive to that. So I'm assuming at the November Tri-Town meeting, which will be in Stowe, that he'll be coming out to present the schematics and so forth. So that's where that stands. It's going to be meeting pretty much every other week between now and the end of the calendar year. And just on Fifeshire, well, Linda and I, after Linda and I were done being photographed at Persons Park, we went on over to Fifeshire to see the latest over there, and the dam itself is done, and it looks really good. I thought they did a wonderful job. Carol Gumbard is delighted with what's happened. At this point, where they need to do some plantings, they need to replace some vegetation, and the contractor needs to repair or redo actually the common driveway for the folks that allow us access in, which was part of the contract. So that's not an extra, but the work on the dam itself has been done. I was mistaken. I thought the Office of Dam Safety was coming out this week to check it out, and I think I was wrong about that, but it's in the very near future. And I think once they check that out and they see it, then I think we can go down the path of it being officially declared non-jurisdictional, and we've got to the end of the project.
Great.
So I'm really excited about that.
We're coming up with the idea of maybe putting a few big rocks down there so that people can sit, seeing it's an open area. It would be lovely to be able to.
Well, we do have large rocks left there that are off to the side now.
I've got to go over and look and see what size they are.
It's interesting to see the water level this time of year and how stagnant the pond is. It is very, very stagnant. But, so no, I think the project is quite a success. I really do.
Yeah, no, that's great.
And unless the board has any questions, that's all I have this evening.
All right.
Well, actually, that isn't all I have this evening. Just a reminder, I got a good look from my Persons Park partner there that the next Tri-Town meeting is October 1st at 7 p.m. in the Hogan building. And for those who have not submitted any agenda items who wish to do so, if you could get them into Linda as soon as possible, that would be appreciated. And also, just as an update on the legal RFP that the Law Committee had discussed, it'll be appearing in the Beacon on October 1st. And the deadline for submittals is Wednesday, October 22nd. And I have already sent the RFP to our current legal and town council, respectively, and they have acknowledged receipt, and they're considering how they're going to respond.
Okay. And it's clear that we'll consider either a single firm to do both labor and general, or they can choose one or the other.
They can apply for either or both.
Okay. All right, the next item on our agenda is Board of Selectmen business, and we have a request from Bolton Access Television, but since...
Must be sprinting over.
Yeah, no, Bert has left the control room and is sprinting down Main Street as we speak.
We'll be entering breathlessly any moment.
That's right. So we can perhaps skip that.
I think a couple of these went out to the point.
Yeah. Well, too bad, Bert's not here.
Do you need a minute to catch your breath?
Squirrel.
Wow, when was the last time you heard the words Bert sprinting?
We were just about to pass over you. But
Oh,
you're here
God, you did for a month now.
in the nick of time.
There's nobody running the station. There's one camera on. Okay, so this is for our quarterly funding for VATCO. You got the check for $17,653.82, and then you got a good check for $17,653.82. And we would like $17,650 to fund us for September, October, November.
You're really working for your money tonight.
I don't know why you need so much money when you do everything.
New running shoes.
Yeah, I mean, look at the
Yes, you're capable of work.
Sounds fine to me.
I move that we release the $17,650 to Bolton Access TV operations.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Normally I'm asking for a little.
So we're gonna time you now, okay?
I'll tell you what, I'll start wagging that camera. You see that camera wag? Normally I would like to give you a little update, but we gotta get back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Start the clock.
All right, the next thing on our agenda is review draft letter to NSTAR regarding its role in Kinder Morgan's proposed Worcester North lateral. And this actually is something that I am presenting, and I put together a draft letter. But it occurred to me that when we heard from Kinder Morgan, they said the reason for the whole Worcester lateral was that they had a request for service from an NSTAR or an NSTAR subsidiary. And it occurred to me, if NSTAR didn't have this requirement, the whole lateral could be eliminated. And so we want to know, presumably NSTAR has been providing gas service to Worcester for 50 years, and so why all of a sudden do they have this increased requirement? I think we ought to invite them in and see if they'll explain to us what's going on. And then at the same time, I suppose we could ask questions of NSTAR if in fact this went through. What would their position be on offering gas service to folks in Bolton? Because what Kinder Morgan told us was that that's feasible, and it would be up to NSTAR. So I think those are some questions we have. I don't know.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Okay, is this the company, the electric company that's increasing their, asked the DPU to increase rates?
No, that's National Grid.
No,
Oh,
but
National Grid.
interestingly,
There's gotta be
they're now Northeast Utilities is the sort of the new owner of NSTAR, but they have partnered with a Kinder Morgan competitor in connection with an extension. It's some pipeline deal. But it occurred to me maybe they're not so close to Kinder Morgan anymore. I don't know, or maybe they're.
hedging their bets.
Right, that's,
Well,
that
it just
may be it.
occurs to me they're asking for a rate increase to say, you know, if you don't have this natural gas pipeline, we don't have more natural gas, your rates are gonna go up.
No, I think it's National Grid
That
that,
isn't what it, I don't think that's why National Grid is doing that.
Okay.
No, they have to pay for all the extra poles that they keep in town.
Yeah.
double holes.
Larry?
Yep.
Do you know if Kinder Morgan has actually have a contract, an anticipated contract with the power station in Worcester that supposedly is the target endpoint? Is that, or is NSTAR simply the ones who are going to buy the power from that power station? Because at their pre-submission, I think what we could not see was an actual contract in Worcester yet.
Well, no, we don't know whether whether they have a contract. I mean, what they told us at our hearing was that there was a request for service, so I don't know how far that is. And actually, when you look at where the Worcester lateral ends, it's right at the, it's in Worcester, but it's
on the Shrewsbury line.
It's on the Shrewsbury
Literally
line.
on the town line.
Yeah, and so it's not next to an NSTAR facility or a power plant or something, so I don't know why it's ending there. So I mean, those are among the questions we have. So it's, be great if they could send someone in and fill us in on what's going on.
I would say an additional question would be, too, the question about why a 12-mile lateral from the north when you could make a 3-mile connection from the south.
Absolutely.
We did ask that, and the answer is basically that, lower property values, so they'd have to pay less.
Yeah.
They'd have to compensate owners out here less than cutting up through Shrewsbury, Worcester, Auburn.
It's not clear when they talk about the cost there, whether or not they're talking about the high value versus low value. In other words, if it blows up here, it's not as bad a problem as it blows up in a suburban area. Yes. So when they talk about cost, I mean, if they're using that term, we'll certainly be there, or if they decide to come. The question would be, to what do you refer when you refer to cost? Is it the cost of the of just the price that you're paying to landowners, or is it the cost to the thickness of the pipe for security reasons, or the potential insurance costs for high value versus low value bodies?
I mean, those are all
And
questions.
and if they start having to get through all the ledge on Wanacota Kill, they may decide that the 3-mile route is really a better deal.
Right.
I mean, one of
It's
the
not
things,
easy construction area.
no, I mean, one of the things to remember is that we're up on the high ledge on Warner Road, and it took Northwoods an entire year to blow enough top off that ledge to build their road.
About the same with Sunset Ridge. Send it over to Country Mill. They've already done blasting over there.
So,
Yeah, they need clean fill.
yeah,
problem. Okay, I will move that we approve the draft letter to send to NSTAR and Northeast Utilities.
I'll second it.
all in favor? Aye. Sorry, I was busy signing. I'm done.
Jumping the gun by signing before we...
Okay. The next item on our agenda is the discussion of OPEB Strategy Committee. What does OPEB stand for, Don?
Other post-employment benefits.
And this is an account that we've created but not funded.
Correct.
And the discussion last year budget time was that we ought to put together a group of folks to sort of weigh the alternatives, whether if we're not being forced by the state to fund this, we should still go ahead, or whether that's just prudent to do because we know it's coming, or should we say, no, wait until we're forced to do it. Who would you recommend, Don, be part of that committee?
Well, I would recommend one selectman, the town treasurer, the town accountant, and myself. There had been some discussion last year about an advisory committee member serving on there, but advisory committee members can only be ex officio members, so they would have no voting power. So, and we would certainly be looking to meet during hours convenient to us. So that wouldn't necessarily lend itself to the advisory committee members anyway. But since there would not be voting members, I mean, we could certainly do a report out and then, advisory could weigh in at that time.
No, I think that makes sense.
That's a good idea.
Do we have any volunteers on the?
Well, I'll volunteer.
I mean, what I either, if not, you can take it.
Everybody took one step back?
Yeah, that's right.
So if that's what you want to do, you should vote to memorialize it.
Okay, well, I move that we create the OPEB Strategy Committee with membership being a selectman, the town accountant, the town treasurer, and the town administrator.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I move that we have Mr. Wysocki be our representative.
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, next item is the appointment of Daniel Cochran to the Cable Advisory Committee. Now, we didn't invite Danielle in here, and some of the people have pointed out this disparity to me, and that's because I don't think you can run too far amok on the Cable Advisory Committee, and whereas I think but anyway, so whereas the Conservation Commission, and I think the ZBA, among our most, the most important thing the selectmen can do are appoint people to certain committees, but we've had so few people applying in recent years that we just sort of rubber stamp everyone. So anyway, on the Cable Advisory Committee, we already have 3 members on that committee, and is that right?
No, we have 2.
We have 2 and third. I'll be the third.
Who are the 2?
Ken Troop and a name I'm not remembering.
Talked about this today and I forgot to look and see. The selectmen just appointed
Right,
you.
there were only 2. The last
I thought there'd been a draft of 3, and I guess one name was removed.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I apologize. I just don't
I'm
remember.
gonna find it here. You can keep going and I'll look.
But in any event, there are 2, so there's 1 opening, so
Right.
I move that we appoint Danielle Cochran to the Cable Advisory Committee.
I'll second that.
And the next item is the appointment of... all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Keep them on the street.
Bob. Oh, that's right, Bob Johnson.
That's right, Bob Johnson.
It's a good thing you got us here for us.
Thank
The next item is the appointment of Liz Close to the Conservation Commission. And the real reason I wanted to have you in is to thank you, because we've had a couple of years in a row, there was an effort to reduce the size of the Conservation Commission because we didn't have enough members, we couldn't, and they were having problems with a quorum, and town meeting, in its wisdom, decided not to reduce it, and so we're desperate for folks, and we appreciate your stepping up. I've seen your letter, you got great qualifications, but But I guess I wanted to say, because I do think, I mean, our Conservation Commission is very important. It's making decisions on behalf of the town. And you heard about this Kinder Morgan stuff. It's very hot now. I know you're familiar with Tom Denny. But I wanted to sort of, for all committees, I think as you're getting up to speed on their rules and regs, always ask yourself when they're meeting, like, what's our authority for this? What's our jurisdiction in this? Because we sort of do this ourselves, but as we were doing our site plan review process. But I think it's always important to sort of ask yourself what's the authority, because I remember when I first got on the planning board, and this was like 15 years ago, and it was an old different conservation commission that were none of the same people on it. But I remember at one point they had a subdivision and they had requested that a rock be padded and the builder said, fine, we'll do it. But it occurred to me, it's like, I don't think they have authority over rocks, and so, but there's a tendency, it's like, they just ask for it and builders, and people say they do it. So I think it's always good to bear in mind, it's like, what's our authority for this? Because they have, Conservation Commission has great power in the, in wetlands and the area, but it's always good to use that judiciously. And I think the other challenge that sometimes Planning Board or Conservation Commission has is when you have you're treating the miserable developer the same as the nice homeowner. That they got to treat them both the same, even though sometimes it can be difficult when you've got somebody who's a disagreeable character. But I as I said, I appreciate your stepping up, and we still have, it seems as though we have sort of fewer and fewer volunteers. Right now we're scrambling to get people on the advisory committee, and so it's great when somebody is stepping up. So
we thank
you.
We thank you very
Yes.
much.
My family, we just came back from the White House and the Capitol, and as we sat up in the gallery, and I realized that it was a letter to Senator Markey that got us there, and I'm with my little kids and my husband, and I'm thinking, it's time for me to get involved, and I felt it's this huge spirit of being American that is there, and I thought, it's time. My kids are getting older. I have a certain skill level. When I was in college, I was vice president of student government, and I was on the ombudsman committee. I was completely involved, and I've slowly gotten more involved at home, and now it's time to get involved. And I thought, okay, well, and then I saw the ad in the paper, and I also I know somebody on the Littleton Conservation Commission, and somebody in Harvard on the planning board, and friends of mine, and I talked with them about what it's like, and I said, well, maybe I should get more involved, and I know some of the issues, and I see the pipeline signs, and I think it's time. So that's what brought me here. And
well, thank you very much.
It's a great group on conservation. Carol is great. I mean, you've got great staff in town hall to support all of this. So it actually makes volunteering very, very enjoyable for most of the time. I mean, there will be times with the miserable developers, or in some cases, the miserable homeowner who got sold a bill of goods by his miserable developer, but can't really do what the developer said they could do. So but it is very rewarding, though.
But we need good people, all the volunteers, but particularly on these boards that are making these quasi-judicial decisions. You're making decisions. It's great. So again, our thanks, and we appreciate it. You sure you don't want to think about advisory?
I worked in Lincoln, and I lived in Sudbury, and these are towns where conservation efforts are, it's a big deal, and I've been sort of involved at different levels, and I thought, okay, I know what the committee does, what the commission does.
Right.
So.
Well, it's great. Yeah, no, it is. I think it's going to be very interesting as this Kinder Morgan thing goes forward, because it does. I mean, some of the the property, the pipeline's going through a town property that's conservation land. Like, oh my God, so yeah. No, it's going to be interesting. So again, our thanks.
So I will move that we appoint Clues to the Conservation Commission.
I'll second
for-
that.
That's for finishing out a 2-year term, I think it was. Two-year appointment, yeah. Yep.
Okay, I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
The next item is to set the Selectmen's meeting schedule.
Oh, and here we have the calendar. So, we were thinking that to stay on the 2-week schedule for October, we were looking at the 9th and the 23rd, and we actually already referenced the 9th in that letter.
Oh, that's right, I plugged in those dates.
And
And
then
November 6th?
And November 6th.
Yeah, okay.
November 6th and the 20th. And then December is the challenging one, because we've got the 4th, no, it's not, actually it's not so bad, we've got the 4th and the 6th, 18th.
Yep.
And then we go into January. So it would be nice if we could schedule out through April if we could.
Right.
So it'll be 8th and the 20th?
8th and the
I
22nd.
think
Yeah.
it's good for the first.
Yeah, that's right. Don will be too hungover.
And the 12th and the 26th. Yes.
Yeah, probably.
All right.
And it looks like the 12th and the 26th.
Hmm?
Deja vu. And then the 9th and the 23rd. Right. Okay. That was easy.
And then town meeting will be when?
4.
The 4th?
First Monday in May, so.
All right, well, we'll see if we need.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you
we
might
always-
have
we
to
always
shuffle
extra
around.
Yeah, we always,
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
extra. Okay.
Good, all right, sounds good.
done. Okay.
Now that I find the calendar, we're all good.
Okay.
All right, the next item is to review minutes. And we actually have some.
We actually have some this time, yes.
We do.
And move that we approve minutes for the executive session from June 5th, the regular sessions from June 26th and September 10th, and the law committee meeting from August 28th.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Sam, how money?
Good night now.
Good night.
I can move on to the appointments.
Sorry?
Now you can move on to the appointments.
So important.
Right, from there. All right, we are now going to go into executive session pursuant to Chapter 30A of the General Laws, Section 21A3, for 2 reasons under that section. One, to discuss strategy with respect to the collective bargaining for the police and dispatch unions, because the open meeting would have a detrimental effect on our bargaining position. And the second, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation involving Michael Sept. We will take a roll call vote to go into the executive session.
Sprague,
Yes.
Delaney,
Yes.
Kasaki,
Yes.
and did you say we wouldn't reconvene?
Well, I always forget that. Then we will not be reconvening.
Did you already make a motion to go into executive session?
No, we
first?
just had the vote. We skipped the motion. We just had a vote.
Okay, move that we go into executive session.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Sprague,
Yes.
Delaney,
Yes.
Kasaki.
Work is-